everyone, and welcome along. Today we are doing the letter C and we are painting cherry blossom. I couldn't resist, it's one of my favourite flowers and a great opportunity to get it in for the letter C. So grab your paints and let's get started. We had to go for cherry blossom, it's one of my absolute favourites. So we're going to do a little branch that sort of comes out and over the front, and there we go. That's quite nice like that. And then for cherry blossom, we've got lots of flowers here. And so I think in terms of sort of drawing a little circle or something for every single one, I think that's going to get a bit heavy as we're so miniature. So we're going to go with just the stem, which I'm also going to give a little rub out because we're painting really delicately here. But we're going to paint pink cherry blossom, which is going to be much easier to see over the top of this. So we're going to take some opera rose and we're going to have it very dilute. And I'm also going to take some buff titanium, which seems to be a very hard-working colour in this alphabet already. The thing with buff titanium, you might be able to see there's a little hint of some green in there, which I really need to clean out. You must be careful not to sort of contaminate it too much. So I'm just mixing the two together, and what happens when you put a pink and an earth tone together is you get some lovely blush tones. So I've got that colour, and then I want some slightly more sort of acidic, strong pink. And we're just going to go for it. So I've got my size 0 brush, I've got my creamy sort of blush tone, and I'm going to make my blossoms maybe like a tiny bit bigger than what they might be, just so they can really show up and things. But I'm going to paint little petals like this into a sort of invisible centre. If you want to just place a dot in the middle so you've got something to anchor your petals around, that's a good idea. But yeah, we'll just paint in some lovely little selections of petals, and then for some sort of on their sides we can just do sort of 3 like that. That's absolutely fine, because remember, we have to simplify things when we're painting so small. It's important not to overcomplicate. And I think that looks rather lovely. Next we're going to add in a tiny bit of opera rose to the centre, and you can see it's not doing a huge amount, but it's going to look really pretty when it dries. And it's just all it's a slow build-up, isn't it, of detail, especially with small watercolour. Okay, now I'm going to take some permanent rose, which is just a little less bright. And we're going to use a combination of the permanent rose and opera rose. It's still very pale, isn't it? For some little buds. So the buds are normally sort of on the ends of stems. So just some little oval shapes. You could place 1 or 2 in sort of elsewhere. That's lovely. And now we need some green. So I'm going to take some green gold and a little bit of sap green mixed together. Just a little bit of sap green. I still want it to be largely the sort of yellowy green. And I'm probably going to go down to my size 4/10 brush here, because I just want to be really, really sort of slender and delicate with these little leaves. And they're going to sort of grow from various junctions or at the ends of the ends of stems. So if your paint from your buds or your flowers is still very wet, maybe just wait a moment. And let them dry before you place those in. Having given that just a minute to dry, like I say, it doesn't take long. We are going to paint in some branches. And I've just taken some burnt sienna and some Payne's grey, and I am going to use my size 4/10 brush to start to fill in the gaps essentially. And it sort of stops a bit short at the end because we will be turning those into little stems. Now if you want, you could always sort of just place in a little knobble, extra little branch sort of here or there. And now it's time to just build up the detail on some of these. So I'm going to take some sap green. It's a little more concentrated. There we go. And I'm going to use it to sort of create a little leaf vein. And once I've put those in, I'm going to come back in with a sort of clean wet brush and just sort of use it to actually create a bit more of a sort of shadowy texture on it. Nice. And then a bit of alizarin crimson. Again, a very small amount to create a little sort of sepal on the base of the buds and also the stem that sort of connects them down. And then we've got our beautiful blossoms that we've sort of ignored for a little bit. So I'll pop a little sepal or a little alizarin crimson base on the side-on ones. And then I'm going to do some little dashes in between the petals, which essentially is the little glimpse of what I've just painted on the back of the side-on flowers. And it's so small and it's so delicate. So I'll just move my water jar around here. Here we go. So I'm now going to take some yellow ochre and we're going to do little dots of filaments. Now for the side-on flowers, we might see these just behind the petals. But we won't see a huge amount. And then just a little dark green, little dot in the middle for those face-on flowers. Now that looks really lovely. One thing you could do if you wanted to just give it that tiny bit more oomph is the tiniest bit of shadow. So I've just taken a very, very small amount of Payne's grey, put it into my petal mix, and you could just place it in there as the tiniest, most delicate of glazes. But you know me, I love a bit of detail. And especially when you're painting small, the great thing is a tiny bit of detail goes a very long way. Now I think that makes all the difference. You might be saying, what? I can't see anything. Trust me, it's there. Okay, let's let it dry and then we're going to paint our sea in buff titanium. What's lovely is every time I start sort of filling in these letters and I think, oh, is the outline too visible? And I am using a slightly stronger outline for the sake of filming, of course. But actually, even with a delicate little flower over the top with the cherry blossom, I think it still looks great. So there you have the letter C, cherry blossom. Looking really gorgeous. I hope you've enjoyed that one. I certainly did. And of course, we've got many more to go. So I hope you're enjoying yourself. Like, comment and subscribe to the channel. Let us know how you're getting on with it. And we will see you next time for the letter D.